how I refinish these floors. Man, I can tell you that I was not ready for this project. I'm gonna throw that out there. You're going through these videos and you're finding how to refinish your hardwood floors. Just be ready for the fact that you're not ready, if that makes any sense at all. These floors in this house basically add up to about 1,600 square feet of hardwood finished floors. Now, originally this house was built in 1890, which is the floor I'm standing on right now. Behind me in the primary suite, well, that's a brand new floor that I just laid. Behind you is also a brand new floor. Over there, again, new floor, old floor, and then there's a segment of floor that I reclaimed from a different house that was built in 1910 that I put into this house. Now, you're thinking, all right, 3 different generations of wood. How can you possibly make it all match and look cohesive? Well, perseverance is number 1. And being able to admit that you are in over your head. Because that's what happened to me. I was in over my head. And I rented equipment that I really didn't properly know. And, well, because of that, it cost me several weeks of work. And because of all of that, I didn't film and process my videos as I normally do, and I'm way behind. And I started looking at the film footage and decided, well, this deserves to have a little mini-series. All the different nuances of the equipment that I had to deal with, and the floor, and how I integrated the old floor with a new floor and spliced in sections. I feel that it really deserves to have multiple videos. So if you're catching this video and you're trying to learn what I went through to do these floors, just know that this isn't the only one. And in this particular video, it's just round 1. Just round 1 of what it took to get these floors to look like this. And I encourage you to watch all of them, of course, and pay attention to the little details. It's the little details that bit me. Well, enough jibber jabbering, let's get into it. Holly and I are 3 days in on refinishing these floors. And quite honestly, I wanted to figure out how these machines work and the process behind it all, because I've never used machines like these before. And I can tell you, it's been a struggle for the drumming side of things. That thing's brutal. It is brutal. And I will show you exactly why I'm saying that. I started out in this area here in the dining room because I wanted a section of the old floor that's original to the house. I wanted to try that first and figure out the nuances of everything. And I learned quite a bit. But it's looking pretty good, and I will show you what we've done so far. So you can really see the gaps in the floor, some of the nails that are still proud, and the rust staining that happens from the nails. You know, that sort of thing will not go away. That's just going to be part of the floor. And then you have some damage from all the different layers of the nails going through everything that are still there. And we're going to address that probably tomorrow. And then there's this one scratch that I can't seem to get rid of. The longer I grind on it, it just stays and stays and stays. And we're getting pretty thin on the wearable surface. So I didn't want to go any further than that. I want this floor to be able to be sanded again in the future. So that's just going to be, you know, the distressing of this floor. And a chunk of this board popped up, so we're going to have to lay in a little repair piece in here and get that sorted. Now back in this room, this is the new floor, but you still have to sand it. And I'll show you the reason why here in a little bit. But the process is very simple on the new floor. I just used the drum sander, 80 grit and then 100 grit, and then we'll come in with the finish sander and hit it again, 80 grit, 120 grit. And this will be ready for stain and poly and all that. Now this is the one floor that was repurposed out of the house that was built in 1910, and it's doing pretty good. I still end up doing the full gamut of sanding with the drum sander, 36 grit, 60 grit, 80 grit, 100 grit. So it's seen all of those rounds of sanding, and now Bentley is working on the finish sander on this and over through here. Now this is the new floor, so I didn't have to drum it nearly as bad, same as the bedroom, 80, 100, and it is good to go. Now right through here, you can see the little chatter marks. And what that is from the planing process at the mill. And I tried to hit this with just the finish sander with 80 grit, and it just knocked the very tops of those ridges off, but still left the valleys really well defined. And I did not want to have that as my finished product. That's why we're drumming the new floor and then doing the finish sanding. And there's a very slight lip between the two boards. Yep, not always, but there is on some of them another reason to go ahead and drum it first. Now we're in the front bedroom, and what you can see here, I haven't sanded this at all. And I don't know if the camera's picking it up. We have, these are marks from the miller, some sort of reference that he uses. And then you have the chatter marks in the board. And then you also have this here, this burn mark here. Now this is from the board getting stuck in the planer and the feed roller just grinding against it. So we have to make sure we sand all this out. So Bentley's been working on pre-staining a couple boards for me. We're going to be going, or I'm going to be going to Plattsburgh this afternoon to meet with the customer and the interior designer. And so this board here is the old one, right?
Old, and then this one's the new one.
And the color we're using is called Cocoa by Bona. Now you can even see here that the ridge lines of the planing process that happened. Now this is an unsanded board, and so hopefully, well, what we should do is sand one and do the same thing, and then we can compare. So yeah, I want to do that. But this is why we have to drum sand everything first before we finish sand it, to try to eliminate those marks. I managed to get rid of the glaze issue we have here. We still have the deeper marks, which is again why we have to drum sand, because even that guy isn't strong enough to cut through that. It's a good little experiment to be doing right now. So I'm going to show Bentley how to use this machine and grind on this floor here. This is going to be the hardest floor to grind because of its age. As the floors get older, the harder the wood gets. The amount of gaps that are in here, the unevenness upon which it was laid to begin with, and the fact that we spliced into this floor several times. So, up to this point, Bentley and I have divided and conquered. He's been doing the edging and finish sanding, and I've been doing all the drumming. Because the drum can cause the highest amount of damage the fastest. So I wanted to make sure I really got an idea of how this thing worked before I turned it over to him, because I didn't want to half-heartedly teach him. And now, honestly, my body is exhausted from this thing. First things you need to know is obviously the power, where it comes from, managing your cord, making sure it stays plugged in. The dust bag, it's really important to make sure that it's tied up correctly. So the discharge on this is what's called a milk fitting. It has a flare on the outside here. And when I received the machine, this bag is pretty tattered. It has a hole underneath where the strings go through. And that hole was exposed and it's just puffing dust straight out. So making sure that you get it tied up in a manner. Well, I'm gonna go empty this, I'll be right back.
My life, in the sunshine.
Sing it, Bentley. Sing it!
Why can't I just run this across the floor with my bare hands?
Go ahead.
No.
See what happens.
Explodes.
Your arm?
Everything, just explosion. I'd probably be sanding it so fast it'd explode just like it does in the drum set.
Nice. That's optimistic.
I'm just really fast.
So when I tie it up, you just draw your strings together, and I go underneath the section that has the draw section, cross it behind, and then bring it up, and just like you would tie your shoes, overhand knot, and then the rabbit ears, that whole gig.
I use Velcro.
No, you don't. You don't tie your shoes.
Don't need to.
And then now the knot is underneath where that hole is, so now it will stay dust-free-ish. Very ish. Okay. Now, unplug your machine before you change your sandpaper. So this particular style of drum has a slot in it where you just put your sandpaper in, kind of like the old school hand sanders that you used to use. But it has little cams that will lock it in. So you hold this little square bit here, turn it counterclockwise, do the same thing on this side, and then the sandpaper comes out. Now what I like to do with the old sandpaper is just rub it against the housing, and then the extra sawdust will come out. I tip it back up, rock it a few times, and you get piles of sawdust out. Now you want to make sure you rub the drum off. So all these bits of sawdust that are built up on here can cause high spots on the sandpaper, which causes grooves in your floor. So you don't want to do that. Now, you can look down inside the slot here. Hey, Bentley, look.
I'm looking. Oh.
See how that works?
Yeah.
Right? And then, so just make sure that you have these both set. You see that circle?
Yep.
Indent? Make sure that is facing outward towards the face of the drum.
Gotcha.
Okay? So.
This is for install?
Yeah. So when you're installing, you want to make sure that circle is sitting out.
I knew that.
No, you didn't.
I knew that 5 seconds ago.
Okay, now on the front of this machine, there is this plate. It says sandpaper bender. Pretty simple, right? So, as you can see, the sandpaper is cut at an angle. Like that. So that's so it fits that angle there, right? So you just slide it in here. Now, the fella at the rental shop told me to fold it right over. Now when you do that, why don't you hand me an old one? Oh wait, I got this one, yeah, this one here. So, if you fold it right over, like that, what ends up happening is it cracks the paper really bad. And then that's part of the problem I had where they were just exploding, right? And he said to do both sides. Don't do both sides.
Okay.
Just do the one side. You'll feel it come in contact with this plate here. And then all you're gonna do is just create the beginning. Right?
Crease it.
Just a little bit of a crease, right? And it stays intact here. Then I feed this up through the bottom. Just giving a little wiggle. Now this 36 grit gets stuck pretty easily. So sometimes it can be a bit of a pain. Just roll that in there. Set it in that groove until it comes in contact with that crease that you created. Now at this point, you can go ahead and just fold it as hard as it'll go. Holding this side first and then rolling that in. And then you just pull this nice and tight. I've been giving it a little bit of a wiggle and making sure that it stays on the edges of the drum. And then I overlap it, come back, cup it, don't crease it, okay? And then send that leading edge into the drum. Is that grating? Now I pinch it so that it brings all the slack forward, and then I just work it back and forth, both sides. This 36 grit is not easy.
You want as little as.
Yeah, pretty much, but without excessively creasing it. That's the hard part. Oop. Once you get higher in the grits, it becomes easier. And just the practice of doing it. But yeah, don't be surprised the first couple you do and it just explodes on you. That's why. Now, you want to activate the cams left to right. And then these are going to be going clockwise. So think about it grabbing the paper, right? And then just go 180 degrees out. Now that one doesn't have much tension on it, but this one will have a fair bit. And it'll just suck it in. That's nice and tight.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to operating this, when you're coming in contact with the floor, you don't want to just set it down with it grinding. You want to already be moving. Okay? So you'll be moving forward, you'll set it onto the floor, and then it's going in the rotation that you're moving, so it's going to want to pull, right? You want to go as slow as possible. So what I've been doing is 3 seconds on every footstep. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and they're small footsteps. You saw them going.
Yeah, I saw your little rabbit steps.
Yeah, so they're super small steps. And the harder you pull up on the handle, the more aggressive she'll dig. And that is what you're gonna want.
Okay.
All right. I wouldn't go whole hog on it.
Yeah, I just don't.
Yeah.
But is there is the key to try and stay, like, you find a spot and you try and stay in that same, I feel like it's kind of going to be a little bit tricky to
It is.
get that at first.
Especially with this floor, it is. And with the 36 grit, we want to go diagonally across the floor.
Okay.
Okay.
Diagonal the other way? Or just one way for this?
No, we're gonna do it both ways.
Okay.
Yep. So in my head, I've always been starting over here and working across the front of the fireplace and then going back and forth.
Like.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So just use that 45 degrees as a reference, and then you can.
And you don't really turn on this. You just go forwards and backwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so when you get to the end of your run, you want to pick it up or push it down near the end, right? You don't want to just go to the end and then pick it up.
Yeah. Feather it a little bit.
Yep.
Okay.
Because this thing will dig.
And it'll probably just leave a fat line, huh?
Exactly.
Okay.
It actually ends up being like a little trough.
Okay.
And so that's even more important when you're going to be returning your trip. So the line that you choose to go forward on is the exact same line you come back on.
Okay.
So don't go to the end and keep it engaged and come back, because that moment of idle will dig. So you lift the roller out, and then you set the roller back in.
Okay. So am I doing 2 passes on the same
spot,
run, and then to get back to the original, adjust.
Yep.
Stay on that overlap a little bit.
About half the drum.
You're just half. Okay.
Yeah. So
technically, everything should be getting like 4 passes on one diagonal.
Yes.
Okay.
On every pass.
Oh, well, that's why it takes so long, huh? 3 seconds a step. All right.
This machine and the drum of this thing isn't in full contact, so you're only getting about 4 inches of travel to each pass. So Bentley's about 1/3 of the way through this room, and he went and checked his belt, which is the right thing to do. And what you see here is actually what you don't see, which is impressive. This varnish that's on this floor will gum up sandpaper really bad if you aggressively go at it too fast. So Bentley's got a perfect pace. He's got a little bit of buildup that's totally normal, nothing to worry about. He's got nice even wear across it. I don't see any issues with this. I mean, it is starting to get a little bit dull, so we'll probably go ahead and change it. But this is absolutely perfect of what you want to see when you're grinding a floor like this. Well done, sir.
Woo!
Now, show me you can change the pad.
Shit.
Good morning. So Bentley was here without me last night. I had to go inspect a building for a friend of mine looking to purchase something. And that's a very interesting building. I hope if they pick it up that we can kind of do a tour of it. And I am super jealous of the basement of this building. I'll just put that out there. What was I gonna do? All right, so Bentley continued on with the 36 grit. You can see how far he was able to get. Now, that is just round 1. Round 2 is gonna be 36 again, in the opposite direction on the diagonal. And then 60 grit, and we're gonna go across grain, and then the 120 grit. Now, I know that some of you out there are thinking, why on earth are you going across grain or diagonally? Well, I'm gonna flatten this floor. And the reason you do that is, well, I mean, you know why you flatten the floor, but when you're going diagonally across, especially on the first pass with that really aggressive 36, what you're doing is you're really staying on top. So any high spots at all, you're gonna stay on top of those high spots. You're never gonna be in the lows. And you just grind on those high spots all the way across the floor. But you're gonna put some pretty gnarly grooves or scratches in that floor, in the diagonal pattern. And that's fine if you do multiple passes afterwards. Now I'm gonna go on the other side and I'm gonna hit diagonally across the floor again. And then what's gonna happen is I'm really gonna get down into the lows by bringing the highs to that elevation. And you can see spots here where there's high spots and low spots where the original finish is still kind of showing in bits, and that's okay. You don't have to grind it down in the first pass. In fact, you don't want to, honestly. Then the last pass, the 100 or the 120, it's 100 on this. We're gonna go with the grain only. And then that is gonna give us that really nice finish evenly across. And then when we go through and get the finish sander in here, we're gonna do an 80 and a 120 on that. And then that's gonna take care of all the scratches. So that's my process. Ooh, looks we got a nail pop we need to get. Well, it is Friday, so I'd like to get at least the drum sanding finished today is my main goal. this process, it takes a lot of work. There's nothing easy about this, and that is unfortunate, but the reality. All right, well, man, there's a bunch of nails here. All right, I'm gonna go through and get all the nails, recess all of them, and then get the grinding. Clearly, this video is just scratching the surface of what I went through to get these floors done. And next week I'll put out another one, and so on and so forth. I hope to get everyone caught up to where I am today in, I don't know, 4 or 5 videos. We'll see. Hopefully I'm actually done with the whole project by the time this little mini series is finished. But anyway, I wanted to just take a moment and say thank you for watching, and next week it really reveals the biggest problem that I ran into and what caused me to have to work 7 days a week and late evenings and everything else for the following month that this was going on. So thanks again, and I will catch up with you next week. Thank you for stopping by. Hi, peace on. While you're filming, I'm not here, make sure you don't film the fireplace.
Don't what?
Don't film the fireplace.
Okay. And no reveal?
Yeah, we're just not sharing it.
Okay.
We're hiding it from our audience.
Have you not shown the wall yet? We've been careful about that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Shit, guess I'm gonna go on your page and I'm gonna be like, I have Sean leaks.
Go to my Instagram and start sharing.
Check link in bio. Sean's only house. Oh.
My only thing?
Only houses, yeah.
The naked truth.
The naked truth.